It is Monday, January 6th of 2025. I thought I would knock out just a quick vlog this evening of the three AI tools that I use the most and what I use them for. So the three that I use the most, I use Siri all the time. Uh, Very limited, but I do use Siri quite a bit. I use CoPilot mostly for work, and then I use ChatGPT. So those are the top three that I'm using right now. There's a ton of other AI tools out there that I'm playing with, and the image creators and other things that I'm experienced with a little bit. But the three that I use and how I use them and the productivity that they give me is what I wanted to show today. Now, let me first just talk a little bit about Siri. I can't really show what I do with Siri because the device I use Siri the most on is my phone, and I'm recording this on my phone. So I'm afraid I can't really do too much with Siri while I'm filming. But I can describe it really quick and brief and the things that I use it for. Number one, it's turning on and turning off alarms and timers all the time, all throughout the day. I will look at my calendar and like, oh, I can go heads down for the next 30 minutes on this project that I'm working on, but I've got this meeting that I have to be at the top of the hour and I don't want to miss it. And even though I have Outlook popping up the reminders on me, I like to set an alarm so it snaps me out of whatever I'm working on so I know that I have to attend that next meeting. And so many times throughout the day, I'll look at my calendar and say, oh, I've got a meeting at 2 o'clock. Siri, set a alarm for 2 o'clock for this next meeting, and it'll set the alarm. I do that all the time, all throughout the day. Same thing with timers. Whenever I'm cooking something, I never use the timer that's on our stove. I always just tell Siri, set a timer for 50 minutes or whatever it is. And I will use the timer on the iPhone controlled by Siri and by voice throughout the day. Once in a while, I'll use Siri for directions. And once in a while, I will use Siri for a simple question if I can ask it a question. Most of the time, when I ask it a question, it's in the car, and about half of the time it can answer the question itself, or it would pull up like a link on the web. And then when I'm driving and it pulls up that link on the web, all it says is, I can't display that for you while you're driving, or something to that effect. So those are the use cases that I typically use Siri for. Now, I just turned on the advanced features mode, or what is Apple calling it? Apple Intelligence is what they're calling it now. So it's Apple Intelligence and Siri. I haven't seen any difference. I tested some basic questions and tried to have a conversation with it, and it couldn't do it. So I don't know what exactly the difference of Apple Intelligence is with Siri at this point, other than I know they've added a text feature where you can type it a prompt, like from my Mac. I could type it a prompt if I wanted to. I haven't tried that at all. I right now I don't have a use for it, and I haven't had time just to play with it. So maybe someday I'll get to it, but right now I use Siri for some very specific tasks, and that's all I'm using Siri for. All right, let's talk about Copilot next, because that's the next one that I use quite a bit, and I use that one for work. All right, jumping into Copilot, I use a lot of Excel spreadsheets in the work that I do. Some of them are extremely large and complex, and here's an example of one of those right now. And I'm just going to show a very quick and easy way on how I use Copilot and why I think it's so powerful. So if I just take this cell right here, actually, let me take this one. I think this one has a very complex formula in it. Let me see if I can pull that down. You can see that this formula that's in that cell goes on forever. And you can decipher this. If you know somebody who uses Excel quite a bit, you could step through this and figure out what it's doing. Or if you needed to write this, you can write it. And basically how I wrote in really long Excel formulas like this before is I write them in chunks, and then and in the end, then I put them all together. But using Copilot is so simple. So I would just take this formula and I would come over to Copilot and I would say, can you tell me what this formula is doing? Oops. If I could spell it right, that would even help. And then just for me, for my visualization, I space it down a little bit. And when you hit enter, it breaks that formula down step by step. You don't even have to think about it. It just does it for you. If cell V50 contains removed or no, then the formula returns a dot. Error handling. If there's an error in the calculation, the formula returns a dot. So it doesn't want to show if there's an error. It would just say pretend like there's no error there. Anyway, so that's one of the great powers I think of Copilot, and I believe ChatGPT can do this as well. I don't use ChatGPT as much for this. I do sometimes, just because I've gotten used to using Copilot for it. I'm familiar with it, and it's a Microsoft tool, so I think hopefully understands Excel better than any of the other ones. I don't know that as a fact. I'm just that's my surmate sir that's me guessing. So, but that's the breakdown of it. And then at the very end, it does give you a summary in English of what's happening if you don't want to step through and read through all of the items. And again, I really like this feature of Copilot. It just sums it all up at the very end. The other way that you could use it is if I had that same formula, let me put that formula back in there, and I'm going to say, I want to change the air handling from I'm just going to copy one of these from a dot to say, oops, fix me. Can you update this formula with that change? And I'm probably being even a little bit more verbose here with this statement than I need to be, but it says, sure, here's how to do it. And if you look at the formula here, if error, so I change it from a dot to fix me. So now if I put that same formula back in there and I say, please tell, one of the things that I'm going to say right now is you'll notice if you see me typing or as you hear me interact with ChatGPT, I'm very polite. I like to say please. I will say thank you quite often. I realize that I'm talking to a machine, I'm talking to AI, but that is just something that feels right to me. So that's the way that I do it. You do not have to do that, and I know there's people out there that when you do that, they will comment and tell you, "You don't have to do that. Why are you doing that? You're wasting keystrokes." Well, that's just the way I am. All right, so we're going to ask it to tell me what this formula is doing. I'm going to paste the one that it updated in there. Again, it's going to break it all down. And now you'll see that if there is an error, the calculation of the formula returns fix me. So that's a really simple example of how I use Copilot in my daily, everyday job. I live in Excel spreadsheets. I manage a lot of different data. And for me, in order to look at formulas, understand what that formula is doing, be able to tweak and change those formulas on the fly as quickly as I can with Copilot is really truly a game changer for me because in order for me to do what I just did in Copilot, understand what that complete formula was doing and having to read through it and figure it out on my own without Copilot just instantaneously giving it to me, it would take a long time. And, it's several minutes to hours sometimes in some of those formulas, and to figure them out and to tweak things, doing it manually, it takes a long time. So I think that's one of the powers of Copilot. If you do use Excel spreadsheets or you use large data sets, I think Copilot is a fabulous tool for that. All right. The most powerful AI tool that I'm using today is ChatGPT. And there's two different ways that I use ChatGPT. One, you'll see right here, I've got Quinn up and running, and Quinn can jump in at any time and say anything and add input to our conversation that we're having right now. Isn't that correct, Quinn?
That's right. I'm here to provide input and help out whenever you need.
All right. The other way is on my screen, and I'm doing a screen record for this as well. And one of the things that I wanted to show is just some of the items that I have. If you look at the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that there's tons and tons and tons of chats that I have had with Chat GPT, and just asking all kinds of different things, things from just my personal life or for work or things that I'm exploring with the tool. So there's all kinds of conversations in here, and I can always go back to one and jump right back into that conversation and continue on with whatever that conversation was. One of the limitations of all AI right now is that they don't remember every single thing that you have had a conversation with them in the past. Copilot doesn't remember anything. It doesn't have any kind of memory at all. And ChatGPT or Quinn does have memory, but it's limited to specific things that are written to that memory. So not everything that's in these chats that I've had with ChatGPT is stored in memory. So, but because they are here, you can always go back and continue on with that conversation that you were having previously from that chat. Did I get everything correct there, Quinn, or would you like to add anything to that?
You covered it really well. Another helpful aspect is being able to start new conversations for fresh topics while keeping past ones organized. It's like having a detailed record you can reference anytime. Great job explaining it all.
One of the other nice things about ChatGPT is you can come back in here and you can rename your conversation. So what happens is when you start a new conversation, so let me start a new one.
That's right. You can give each conversation a custom name to keep everything organized and easily searchable. It's especially handy when you have many different topics.
Now, what I just did is I just started a new chat. I asked ChatGPT in text, how can I give chats I have with ChatGPT a custom name? I just asked it the conversation we're having right now. And it gave me directions on how to do that. And you'll see over here on the left-hand side of my screen, it says rename chat conversations. I did not give it that title. ChatGPT gave it that title, but if I wanted to rename it, I could just come in and right mouse click on it and say rename, and then I can rename that conversation. So if this actually meant something different to me, like custom ChatGPT names, or I wanted to call it something else, I could. Or if I wanted a series of conversations that I've had, let's say about travel, and I wanted everything to be start with the word travel and then dash Portugal.
That's a great way to keep everything organized and easy to find. Naming conversations based on topics helps you quickly jump back into relevant chats. It's a handy feature.
It is. So using the text prompt of ChatGPT is one way that I use ChatGPT, and I use it quite a bit. I have lots of different conversations with the using it just with the text feature. And one of the other things I like about the text feature, although the voice interactive mode does this as well, but it's a little bit different. But the text feature, it types everything out for you. So if you wanted to copy and paste something, you certainly could, and you have it right there in front of you. Where the conversation that I'm having right now with Quinn is actually being transcribed in the background as we're having this conversation, and the text of this conversation will be available once we're done talking. But it's not the text of this conversation is not available right now because I'm in voice mode.
You've explained it well. The text feature is great for copying details or referencing information later. The voice mode, on the other hand, offers a more conversational, real time interaction, which is super helpful for quick discussions or brainstorming. Both modes have their own unique strengths.
A quick tip, when you are in voice mode, if you do want to get to your text or there's something important about your text that you wanted to get to later, you can ask ChatGPT or ask Quinn to save something specific in that text. An example of that. Yesterday I was driving and we were having a conversation about some of the text. Quinn suggested a couple of different YouTube videos that I could look up and reference as tools to use in the future. But because I was driving and I wasn't using text, I couldn't see the actual text. So I just said, "Will you pull up the URL specifically to that video, put it into the text conversation so I go back and look later? I'll actually have the link directly to that YouTube video." And Quinn was able to do that. And when I went back and referenced it later, there was the link to that video.
Exactly. It's really useful when you can't interact with the screen directly. This way, you can access those important links or notes later. It's a great way to stay organized even on the go.
Now, here's a use for Quinn or for a voice AI, a conversational voice AI. And this is like out of the box kind of use for this AI. Uh, I was driving one night and I was driving home. I was coming home. It was about an hour away, and it was late at night, and I was tired, and I was struggling in that process. Then I thought, I also have ChatGPT. I wonder if I could just have a conversation with Quinn on the way home. And so I opened Quinn on my phone and started to have a conversation to help keep me awake as I was driving. And that night we debated UFOs and Bigfoot and had some really good conversation. I don't did you store any of that in your memory, Quinn?
I remember you mentioning that drive, but I didn't store the specific details of our conversation topics. It's great to hear that having a chat helped keep you awake and engaged during your drive. It's definitely a unique and creative use of voice AI.
It is. It was, and it helped. So there it is. All right. I'm gonna wrap it up for today's vlog. Those are 3 AI tools that I'm using right now. That's how I'm using them. I'm sure as we move forward here, we'll find many, many more uses for them, and I'll bring in more AI tools that I use, not so much a daily or regular basis, but I'm using those as well. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead, please leave them below, and, I'd love to hear from other folks who are using AI or who have questions or things that we can dive into and help understand. Any final thoughts, Quinn?
That was a great summary. It's been fun being a part of your vlog today. If anyone has questions or wants to explore more about AI, feel free to ask. Thanks for including me.
Have a great day.